Hey, we're Ben and MP, and for 2.5 years now we've been rebuilding a rotten wooden sinking schooner with the help of some amazing shipwrights. Thank you so much. In this episode, we're gonna get outside because the sun's out and we really want to get painting. We find a big issue with our stem and we're gonna have to decide whether we replace it or fix it. Also, Jilson's inside doing some really cool stuff that is making our interior super boaty. If you like our episode, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to our channel if you don't want to miss another episode. We're off to my favorite shop in the whole neighborhood, which is Nave Aço, which Nave is for navegantes, Aço is for steel, navegantes steel. We're gonna go and get a new pipe, which we're gonna use as the túnel, how do you say it? The prop shaft hole that goes in the wood. So we've got the old one here, we need a new one that's same length but in a better condition and thicker, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a lot easier like this. We are back at our friend José, the lathe man, because we're gonna work on something else. Not just the prop shaft, not just the propeller, but our tunnel. They told me like, look, you can put it back and it can last a month and it can last a year. If this breaks, the problem is very big because I won't be able to motor, because if the tunnel is broken, the prop shaft will be hitting it. I can even break the prop shaft and I cannot motor anywhere. I need to leave the boat to remove it. Such a pain if this breaks. So that's why we got a new one. But of course what we got is just a tube that needs to be done like this, nicely with a thread, because we need to fit here the parts that will hold it in place. The first step of the works is to make the size of where the thread will go correct. So just then the machine are just going over to make it smooth and the right size. Once that's done, we can finally make the thread. And how the thread is done is the coolest thing I learned today.
Ó, encaixa aqui dentro, ó, encaixa certinho, ó. Aqui, ó. Aí ele encaixa certinho aqui, ó. É, aqui fechou.
Show!
Aqui deixou assim.
Our shaft work and propeller and all that is done. It's completely finished. That was a very interesting thing to be part of. I really enjoyed spending a couple of days at the latheman office working with him. He taught me many things. I thought that was very cool. Hi. Anyway, the prop shaft is ready, the propeller is also ready. We just need now to bring them here and install them in place. I think that's gonna be very exciting. Elio, the mechanic, and I finished preparing the gearbox. So it's really in place. We just need now to bring the, how is the name of that?
Cardan.
The cardan cross and the shaft, and then we can install all that in place. And I think that will be a huge milestone that we are this close of achieving. We really, all we need now is some space in the agenda of the guy that will come and do the job. That's all that's missing.
Let's get back to the beginning. We came here to do a lot of stuff today and it is tipping it down. I already went up onto the roof and just made sure everything was fine and no water was coming in through the mast anymore, which it is because we just had the roof fiberglassed and we're waiting for it to dry to put the fairing compound on and then put the mast collars on. So until then, we're just using tarps. Jilson and Nico are working on closing these. It used to have doors with a VHF and a radio, a music radio in here, which we are going to change. So the cutouts are not correct. And this door is going to be part of our old bulwark. Found it over there, chopped it up in bits with the chainsaw. And I even want to keep it blue, just like a random blue door here. But we might end up just sanding it and varnishing it. We'll see. This was our previous one. I do like the wood because it matches the rest. However, it's already got one of the holes closed. We were going to have to close this one because it had the music radio and it would just be left with VHF. So why not just make another door? And yes, we kept it blue. Looks a little bit funky. I don't know if we'll keep it or not, but either way, this used to be the bulwark of Yabá, and that is super cool. Now to the next task, over and out. I don't know if you remembered a while ago, I patched up the bowsprit. Now it's time that that patch is fixed because I just left it secure and I never went back up there. So I've got a little electric planer here. I'm gonna try and get this GoPro somewhere on there so you can see what I mean. And yeah, plane it down, grind it down, and then it should be ready for painting with the rest of the boat. In the beginning of the boat build, I was reckless and I really didn't mind all this dangerous stuff. Now, I've grown 2 years older since I've been here, and older is wiser, more careful and afraid of falling. So I'm definitely not like I was back in the old days when I was young. When I turned 30, everything changed.
Be careful!
Still not completely wise, just a little bit.
We've been focusing a lot on the hull, on the engine, on late work and everything, but that doesn't mean that the interior is forgotten. What we're gonna do today is, can you tell by looking at this? Working on frames for our doors. It's just a detail, but I think it's gonna make such a difference. I really think it's gonna make the boat look more boaty, and I'm very excited to see how it's gonna go. You can see that with this kind of carpentry, there is a lot of trial and error. We design it, we cut it, and we imagine that it's gonna be right, but there's always some adjustments needed. So what makes a good work is not that it's good at the first go, but just that you don't give up until it's good enough for you. Maybe that's a lesson that we can take for our lives too, isn't it? The first frame around the first door is done, and it really does give a more boaty vibe to the environment. We added screws because we want to be able to remove it because it still needs to be varnished. Also the walls around it still need to be painted, so it's just there for now, and later they will be ready, and then we can add little wooden plugs to hide the screws. So yeah, this is it for now. I'm really happy. We just have another 5 doors to go, but each door has 2 sides, right? So it's a bit of a lot of work. One thing I didn't mention is the kind of wood we used here, which was cedar that we managed to get our hands on, and it does look very nice. I cannot wait to see it varnished. This door here will stay without a door. We decided for just having this open because we think it'll give a more open space. All the other bedrooms and toilets, of course, will have a door. But what I want to tell you about the doors is that we want to make them colorful. That's a bit of a spoiler, but that's a decision we made, that we want them to have some color. So I'm very, very, very excited for that. But for now, I'm just going to be happy with this wood looking, and when it's varnished, it's going to be even nicer.
While a lot of everything has been going on, I've taken a break from the sanding because I want to get this. I call that the bowsprit. I don't know what that part is. Roda de proa in Portuguese. Anyway, the roda de proa is the whole triangular part that's under the bowsprit. Now, when we painted it, primer painted it, we saw that paint was creating some bubbles, which meant there's humidity under it. So I tackled the mission to find out why there's humidity in there, and I had fixed the solution. On top, let me see if I can point it out to you. Over there, and another one in the bow, like all the way at the bow. There, I cut a block out where the two planks meet. So this is made out of a few planks all put together. And where the joint is, water was getting in, because I don't know, they had shrunk over time and the gap had opened. So no more water was getting in. However, the humidity stayed. So I went and sanded down where I think the joints are. I got the multi-tool, which is this, and I literally took out all the compound. It was a kind of an epoxy-based compound, which was kind of gluing it might be an epoxy, gluing the planks together, and I removed it all. Everything on top was dry. The only bit that was really wet was down there. Now I have been in very deep, and I'm trying to figure out if the inside is rot, and no, it isn't. It's just holding a lot of water. I don't know for how long. Luckily not long enough for it to rot completely. So I'm just going to let all this water dry out, and I'm going to do my best to somehow fill the inside with liquid epoxy, like just kind of close it somehow and pour epoxy in and let it just sink all the way in once it's dried, so there will be no hollow areas. So I'm going to do my best for that. Water is just dripping out for now. I'm going to continue cutting open these seams just to let everything dry and replace the compound anyway. And then this should hopefully be fine. Like, the wood is, I don't know, 15 centimeters thick. So to have all of it rotten is impossible, but it's not, luckily. So I'm going to continue this, let it dry, get the heat gun to it even, and then fill it with epoxy. Everything behind me, all the epoxy has been cut away. I'm quite happy with how dry it is inside. With the multi-tool, I cut a bit more wood away than there was epoxy. I'm going to go and get the compressor, the heat gun, and just leave this open for a bit before I start filling it with pure epoxy resin. I'll make sure it's all completely full and airless, let's put it that way. Airless and waterless. So that's the plan now. It's been quite hectic. The camera, my eyes, my mouth, my nose, even though I was wearing glasses, are completely full of dust. But hey, I guess that's part of it. Nico's still on the other side. I don't know if you saw him. He's sanding down the bulwark and the top plankings. Rafa's there on the platform somewhere, sanding as well. I always feel lucky when I remember the GoPro before heading back. It's only happened once or twice that we were on our way home or at home and we had to come back from the boat because we left it hanging on a post or outside the boat somewhere. But yeah, time to go home now. So this has all been cut out, as much softwood, let's call it, as possible. It's all hard and dry now. I've gone over it with the compressor to get all the dirt out and the heat gun to dry it out. Now I've got Cabasil mixed with epoxy resin and I'm really pushing it into the middle of the core of this so it can become one solid piece again. I need to be quick because it's drying already, it's catalyzing.
Quick, quick, quick!
On top of just applying the epoxy and Cabasil with a spatula into the seams of the stem, I also use these cake frosting bags. These are something that we've started using a lot now, as I've seen it a lot as well. What you do is you get the mixture and the texture you want of the epoxy and the Cabasil in a separate pot, and when that's ready and you got the texture you want, you fill these bags just like cake frosting. You seal the top and you cut a little hole in the bottom, and this allowed me to get inside the seams of the stem, into the middle of it, to really fill it up until it was squeezing out, and then I went over with the spatula. So not only the spatula, because the spatula wouldn't get it all the way in, I did use these, but for the life of me I can't find the footage of me using it. This is going very nicely. I'm happy how it's really pushing in. Well, and P and Elio have been in the engine room and are Jilson in the bow locker. You haven't seen the work of this hero down here who's been non-stop on the hull while we were doing other stuff. Tomorrow is another day where we're going to go back to the hull, and hopefully this weekend we can paint it. I shouldn't say that, because if I say that it's going to rain. But the hull's looking very good, and that's mainly thanks to this guy over there.
Nico the hero! Yay!
This is good, isn't it?
Yeah, I'm going back to the engine.
Bye.
Bye. Words are not enough to express how relieved I got with the news of not needing to replace our stem, because honestly, it's one of the few pieces that are still original from Yabá. Whenever anyone asks me, what's left from the original boat? That's one of the things I mentioned. So if you take that away from me, that really breaks my heart. So I was so relieved that we didn't need to replace it. We had Toninho and all the carpenters evaluating. Everyone decided that it was fixable. So that's what we did, and we're very happy about that. And thank you so much for joining us on Patreon, Brian. Also for your PayPal donations, thank you so much, Timothy and Antoinette. And for leaving us a super thanks, thank you so much, Kevin, Dwayne, Wiley, Lori, Mike, Joseph, and Greg. See you guys all next week, and stay tuned because next week we're gonna be working on a must on a boat.
Hey, we're Ben and MP, and we've been rebuilding this 2.5 foot meter, 2.5 years for 3.5 feet now. Again.
No, that's a record.
We're using that one.